Joe Tate's collapse in Emmerdale now seems almost certain, and it may unfold sooner than expected. In a recent episode, 3 individuals were shown working together on a revenge plan, carefully deciding how to take him down. Friday's installment hinted further at what might happen next, and the possible timing. Dawn Taylor has decided she no longer wants a future with her fiancé Joe after discovering the truth about his actions toward Moira Dingle and Victoria Sugden. However, she is pretending everything is normal while secretly assisting Moira and Cain in their scheme to strip him of his wealth. The couple became engaged toward the end of last year, and Dawn is now expecting his baby. Not long ago, Dawn learned that Joe had been using proof of Victoria killing John Sugden to manipulate the family. Soon after, another shocking truth came to light. Moira explained that Joe played a role in her wrongful imprisonment through a setup, and despite knowing he could likely help release her, he chose not to act. At first, Dawn struggled to accept this, but she quickly realized Moira was being honest. When she confronted Joe, he denied everything and even swore on her life. That moment pushed her too far, leading her to secretly meet Moira and Cain as they began forming a plan together. In Friday's episode, Dawn continued her act, but also made a decisive move. Knowing she couldn't deceive Joe forever, and finding the situation increasingly difficult, she chose to speed up the plan for his downfall. Although their wedding had been planned for later in the year, or possibly beyond, Dawn insisted on moving it forward. She told Joe she wanted to hold the ceremony much sooner than originally planned. Joe questioned the urgency, but Dawn explained that she wanted to be married before their baby was born. She also said she hoped to have the wedding before her pregnancy became more visible. She claimed it was so she could fit comfortably into her dress and fully enjoy the occasion, but in reality, it was just a cover. Dawn understood that this excuse would help accelerate the wedding plans, potentially bringing the event forward to the coming months. Emmerdale hints at a heartbreaking future for Bear as his explosive trial draws near. A major turning point took place in Friday's episode, May, when Marlon and Graham finally succeeded in finding someone who could become a key witness in Bear's upcoming murder case. While this development might seem like a lifeline for him, the same episode also suggested that he could already be facing a serious struggle while in prison. Bear is scheduled to stand trial next week over the killing of Ray, with his son Paddy and Dylan supporting him as the case reaches a critical moment. As the hearing approaches, Paddy has grown increasingly determined to persuade Simo to give evidence that could help Bear. Simo, like Bear, was trapped in the same modern slavery operation run by Ray and Celia, where he was manipulated and exploited. At first, he was unwilling to get involved. However, after being pushed by Graham, he eventually appeared to reconsider and think about speaking out. This could have been the breakthrough Bear needed. However, events in Friday's episode hinted that the situation is far more complex. When Paddy called his father in prison to share the update, Bear didn't respond with optimism. Instead, he seemed drained and doubtful about what lay ahead, admitting he didn't want to raise his hopes, but wished he wasn't still behind bars. The moment highlighted how fragile his mental state has become, especially as he faces the possibility of a life sentence. Given Ray's dangerous past and connections, prison itself could also put Bear at further risk, as those linked to Ray might see him as a target. The actor who portrays Bear has also indicated that the character has little confidence in avoiding prison and is mentally preparing for the worst. According to him, Bear feels a strong sense of guilt over taking a life and believes he deserves punishment, leaving him without hope as the trial approaches. Although Simo appears to be Bear's strongest supporter, his testimony may not work in Bear's favor. Their shared history is far more complicated than it first seems. During the time they were being abused, Simo and another worker once tried to escape and asked Bear for help. Traumatized and confused, Bear stopped them and alerted Ray instead. The consequences were severe. Simo was reportedly moved elsewhere, and Bear believed he had died. Now, Simo may use the trial as an opportunity for revenge, as he has long felt that Bear received better treatment from Ray, even though that was not the reality. If Simo turns against him in court, the situation could collapse completely, forcing Bear to testify on his own behalf. With his hope fading, his mental health deteriorating, and the dangers of prison closing in, the upcoming trial could put far more than his freedom at stake. Emmerdale's Dawn Fletcher began setting her scheme in motion during tonight's episode, taking her first real steps toward bringing Joe Tate down by playing him at his own game. Earlier in the week, Dawn struck a deal with Moira and Cain Dingle to strip Joe of his wealth and divide it between them as payback for his actions, which led to Moira's imprisonment and cost them their farm. However, they all agreed she would need to act carefully. No easy task, with both Joe and Graham proving to be highly cunning. The episode opened with Kim congratulating Dawn on expecting the next member of the Tate family, prompting Dawn to confront Joe for sharing the news before she had even attended her scan. As the day went on, Dawn struggled to hide her frustration when Joe decided to increase Robert Sugden's rent, justifying it with market reasons and personal principles, essentially because he could. Even Kim appeared to side with Dawn on the matter. A more heartfelt moment followed when Dawn showed her son Lucas the baby scan, speaking about how he, along with Evan and Clemmy, would soon be part of a happy family once the baby arrived, noticeably leaving Joe out of the picture. Shortly after, Joe arrived, and once Lucas had gone, Dawn approached him with a suggestion. She proposed moving the wedding date forward, explaining that she wanted to look her best on the day and hoped they could become a proper family before the baby was born. Joe didn't question her reasoning and quickly agreed, responding warmly and showing affection. However, Dawn pulled away, blaming her reaction on feeling unwell due to the pregnancy. She asked him to give her some space, and the moment he left, her expression shifted, revealing the strain behind her act. The question now is whether Dawn can successfully carry out her plan, or if her true feelings toward Joe will expose everything. Emmerdale hints at a dramatic outcome for Paddy, Bear and Dylan as the trial storyline reaches a critical point, with Simo's testimony set to play a major role. Viewers are questioning whether Paddy could be leaving the village for good, as he, Bear and Dylan prepare to face court in a tense case that could change their lives forever. With serious accusations including murder and attempting to cover up a crime, the pressure on all three men is immense. Paddy has already begun preparing for the worst, even sorting out his personal matters, though a late development suggests the situation may not be so straightforward. In Friday's episode, May 1st, Paddy tried to distract himself, keeping busy to avoid thinking about the trial ahead. After failing to persuade Simo to support Bear, he had almost accepted defeat. However, Marlon refused to give up and brought Graham in to help locate him. Emmerdale is broadcast on weeknights at 8 p.m. on ITV1, and it is also available to stream on ITVX and YouTube.